He found another note on his windshield. It said, "Learn how to park." He tried to ignore them until the scratch showed up on his door. That morning was quiet. Sprinklers ticking somewhere. A trash bin dragging along the curb. Just air and sound, nothing else. The note fluttered once before he pulled it free. Same paper. Same handwriting. Same neighbor on the porch, coffee mug halfway to his mouth. He didn't say a word. Just folded the paper, slipped it into his pocket, and opened the car door like it weighed something extra. Still quiet. Still watching. 2 days later, the scratch showed up. Long. Deep. Still dusted with white paint. There was a pattern to it. Always early, always quiet, always in watching. The neighbors' trucks lined the street, spotless, lined up like a private parade. Everyone else had learned to stay out of his way. He wasn't the type to yell. He didn't even tell anyone at work. But something in him clicked that morning, the way it does when you've been polite for too long. He washed the car that evening, ran his fingers over the scratch again, then looked up at the security light above his garage. It didn't work. Hadn't in months. He wrote a reminder on his phone, by new bulb. When he came back outside, the note was gone. Wind, maybe. Or someone made sure it was. He could still smell the cleaner on his hands, sharp and synthetic, when he saw the neighbor's reflection in his own window. Just standing there again, watching. That night, he couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. Every time the air conditioner clicked on, it sounded like the start of something. By morning, he had a thought he couldn't shake. If the guy wanted a game, he'd chosen the wrong opponent. He parked closer to the curb that morning, just to see if it would matter. It didn't. There was already another note waiting, tucked under the wiper like a habit. This one said, "You people never learn." He read it twice, then crumpled it and tossed it in the passenger seat. Same coffee mug across the street, same stare. The man didn't blink, just raised his chin like he was checking that his message landed. Something in him twitched. He wanted to shout, to call him out, to ask what exactly you people meant. But he didn't. He just started the car, engine rumbling low, hands locked on the wheel. At work, he couldn't focus. His coworkers talked about weekend plans. He scrolled property records on his phone. He wanted to see who this man really was. The name popped up fast. Retired firefighter, 27 years of service. Married. Owner of 3 cars registered to the same address. HOA board member. That last part stuck. Of course, when he came home that evening, the neighbor's driveway glowed under the sunset. 3 spotless vehicles, parked like trophies. The man was out front again, trimming hedges that didn't need trimming. Every cut precise. Every movement deliberate. "Evening," he said, not looking up. "Yeah," the neighbor replied. "Try not to block the mailbox tonight." The tone was calm, but it landed like a slap. He nodded, went inside, poured a drink he didn't really want. The ice cracked loud in the silence. He stared out the window. Same view, same man, still there. He felt stupid for caring. It was a parking spot, a piece of curb no one owned. But the notes weren't about parking anymore. They were about belonging. About being reminded that this wasn't his street, not really. Later that night, he stood in the doorway of his dark garage. The bulb he bought still in the box. He didn't turn it on. Instead, he pulled out his phone, opened the HOA website, and stared at the Contact Us form for a long time. Then he closed it. Too soon for that. He wasn't done watching yet. He started keeping a record. Photos, timestamps, every note, every mark. At first, it felt like proof that he wasn't imagining things. Just keeping himself sane, maybe. By week 3, it didn't feel like proof anymore. It felt like evidence. Same paper, same Sharpie, same porch shadow behind every picture. Still watching, always watching. At night, he'd sit at his desk, laptop open, light from the screen washing over his face. The neighborhood outside was quiet, sprinklers ticking in the distance, a dog barking once and stopping like it remembered something. He scrolled through zoning maps, Google Street View, property databases. The deeper he went, the calmer he felt. That's when he found it, the garage conversion. The man had turned it into a workshop. Insulation, windows, power tools. But no permit. None listed, not in any public record. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the monitor. The hum of the fridge in the next room suddenly sounded too loud. He checked more. The extra car parked halfway on city property. The concrete extension passed his boundary line. It was all there, open, obvious, and illegal. For a moment, he almost laughed. All that talk about rules, and the man lived in a violation. He printed everything, screenshots, city maps, copies of the notes. The printer's steady rhythm filled the kitchen like breathing. When the last page came out, he stacked them neatly, squared the corners. The sound of paper hitting the counter was soft but final. He opened the city's website, the one for reporting code violations. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He thought about his father, the voice that used to say, "Don't argue with idiots." Document. He typed the address, added the photos, wrote one line under details. Unauthorized structural modification and use of public property for private parking. Then he clicked submit. The screen blinked once, confirming receipt. No drama, no satisfaction, just quiet. He turned off the monitor, sat in the dark, and listened to the silence that came after doing something irreversible. 3 weeks later, 2 white city cars rolled onto the street. No sirens, no noise, just quiet authority pulling up to the curb. He saw them from his window. 2 inspectors in orange vests, tablets in hand, standing at the neighbor's driveway. The morning light hit the chrome of those 3 spotless cars, throwing back flashes across the yard. The man came out still holding his coffee mug, still in slippers, half smile on his face like he assumed it was a friendly visit. It wasn't. They started asking questions, pointing toward the garage. He couldn't hear the words, just the tone, clipped, official, final. The neighbor's smile cracked after 30 seconds. Then came the yellow tape. It went up fast, across the garage door, bright against the beige paint. One of the inspectors pressed a sticker onto the wall. Unauthorized structure, sealed until further notice. From across the street, it looked like someone had drawn a line straight through the man's authority. The neighbor's wife came out next, robe pulled tight, whispering loud enough that even the wind caught pieces of it. He didn't watch long. He just leaned back from the window and let out a slow breath that felt heavier than he expected. By noon, the trucks were gone. The neighbor's driveway was empty except for that yellow warning and a man standing alone with a clipboard full of bad news. That evening, the street felt different, almost calm. He sat on the porch for a while, coffee cooling beside him, the hum of sprinklers soft in the distance. For the first time in weeks, no one was watching. He went outside later, walked to his car, keys jingling like punctuation in the silence. The air smelled like sun-heated asphalt and wet grass. He parked perfectly, wheels straight, bumper even with the curb. When he turned to head inside, he caught the man's eyes for the first time. No mug, no smirk, just a flat, stunned stare. He nodded once, polite, like any good neighbor would. Inside, he poured himself a glass of water. The house felt larger somehow, quieter in a different way, not empty, just settled. Out front, the yellow tape fluttered once in the breeze and then hung still. Some lines don't need to be spoken to be understood. The next morning, his car sat exactly where it belonged, centered, clean, untouched. The air was cool, still, the kind of suburban quiet that almost sounded fake after what had happened. He grabbed his coffee, stepped outside, and noticed something white under the wiper. For a second, his stomach tightened, an old reflex. Then he saw it wasn't folded, just a single blank sheet. No handwriting, no message, nothing. He stood there for a while, the cup warming his hands, the silence pressing in around him. Across the street, The neighbor's driveway looked stripped bare, tape sagging, the NO parking sign catching the light like a scar. One of the trucks was gone, probably parked blocks away. He slid the paper off the windshield, held it up against the light. It trembled a little in the wind. Something about it felt deliberate. A gesture, maybe, or surrender. Hard to tell which. He didn't tear it up, just folded it once, clean and sharp, and set it in the glove box next to the others. He sat behind the wheel for a long time before starting the engine. Through the glass, the street looked ordinary again. Lawns trimmed, mailboxes upright, everything pretending to be fine. But he could feel it. The balance had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. He backed out slowly, tires rolling right over the painted line he'd measured so many times in his head. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, the neighbor's figure small, motionless on the porch. No wave, no look, just stillness. At the stop sign, he exhaled, a quiet breath that felt final. Later that night, when he parked again, the space felt different, like it finally belonged to no one and to everyone at once. He turned off the engine and sat there in the soft ticking of cooling metal. Some silences you earn. Some you build piece by piece until they stop being quiet and start being peace. He closed the glove box. The latch clicked, one clean, finished sound.